All right, folks, it is 4:30. We have a quorum, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Do we have live streaming active? If we can get somebody just check, make sure we're on YouTube and Facebook, I believe. Okay, live streaming is good. Let's just go quick introduction around the table.
Thomas Dewhurst, member.
Justin Sanders, member.
Dave DeBack, member.
Tressa Greshak, member.
David Benak, chair.
Rachel Yondel, member.
Steve Romanelli, member.
Want to go back to Justin? As of this meeting, you're now vice chair.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. We have an agenda in front of us. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to raise a motion. Yeah.
All right. Do we have a show of hands? Who's in favor? All right, good. Motion passes. We have an agenda. The minutes went out, I believe, I got them yesterday, I think it was. Yep, but we did get them. So do we have any comments on the agenda before we have a motion to approve?
I had sent in one correction that I believe was corrected. Thank you.
Any other corrections to the minutes? All right, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, excellent. We have minutes. Just for the record, Damaris, do you just want to introduce yourself so they have it?
Yes, I'm Damaris Potter, member.
Thank you. So we have almost a full board today. Let's see. The agenda, we have communications. The communication I just wanted to raise, we'll talk about it some more later, but did anybody else see the issue of groundhogs eating vegetables? Okay, so we'll talk about that when we get to wildlife. I think it's an appropriate place to stick that. Any other communications? All right, I do want to add, after public comments, I'm just going to give a little chair's announcement here just to kind of get people up to speed with where I want to take things for the year. So, want to check for public comments. No one in the audience? Nope. Do we have anybody on the phone lines or trying to get us another way? Okay. All right, we're moving fast today. One of the things that you'll notice with the agenda, I asked Justin to change the order so that we put the committee work first. The reason I want to do that is because our committee work always gets cut short. You know, we don't have time to give a lot of reports, and I think that that's where we have a chance to do some real good. So what I would ask everybody to do this year is to find some project, some initiative, something that comes out of your committee that you'd like to bring to the board. As an example, I was thinking that the EPS and foam recycling, that started with the ECC. And that's a huge advantage. That's really important for the city. Another thing that's a little further back that started with the ECC was the city's native plant ordinance. So that's another. So we have the chance to do some good things, and I think in the committees are where those ideas are going to come from. So I want to make sure that we give that full attention. And so also, I sent around, not everybody has had a chance to review it, but I sent out a document so everybody knows what committees they're on, what committees we have. I also put that on Google Drive so that people can all have simultaneous access. If you prefer to just respond to the email and the Word document, you can do that. I'll plug it in. So whatever committee you're on, if you can just write a short statement. You know, you saw I gave a couple examples for the committees I'm on. Just when does it meet, how often, where does it meet, and just in general, like one sentence about what it is that you're expected to do. Because we are going to be pretty dramatically revising our committee assignments. You know, we had Sharon has termed off the board. We have new people who are coming on. Bobby has been changed to a reserve member. So we have several committee spots that are open. And I'd like us all to have time to think about those so we can choose the ones where we can use our talents the best. So by next meeting, so next month, I'd like that to be an agenda item that we can discuss because we'll have had time to think about it. That sound reasonable? Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into committee reports that we have. Natural features protection, that is one that Bobby has sat on, so that's one that will be open. That's a really important seat that we get to observe. That's where important things happen. We'd like a strong voice on that. Air and water quality report, that's also a spot that Bobby had been holding. So again, that's important in the city, so we want to make sure we have that. Wildlife and natural resources. All right, we have, it's you and Damaris, are you on that one?
Yeah, so, and you're on it too, right? Or is that different then?
Between native species and urban landscape, because that's listed
Okay.
as a separate one.
Yeah, that would be the one that I'm on, native species and urban landscape.
Okay, so I don't have that listed separate, so,
It is on the agenda separately as.
oh, it's down there at the bottom.
Yeah, at the
Okay,
very
I didn't
bottom.
see that when I did. Okay, thank you. I'll add that to the working document. Okay, so Tressa.
It's like, yes, and what can I do for you? I mean, yeah, the only thing I know of is the groundhog issue. Let me pull it up so I can read it. The message we received says, she, I'm assuming Marjorie, wants it brought up to the city manager office so they can start working on an answer and present to some city commission. She wants something to control the groundhogs so that she can have a garden. She's known only one person that has been able to have a nice garden on the north side, and it's because that person put up an electric fence that is not feasible for everyone to do. She paid to have someone till up the ground for her, and her grandson bought veggies to plant. The next morning, all the plants were gone, eaten down to the ground. Sounds like a groundhog. There are 2 nesting females that live next door. She can see them. And they eat her grass even when they are not able to eat. I'm not sure what that last bit means, but point is, groundhogs on the north side seem to be a widespread issue. And what can we do about it? If anything.
So just to kind of spur this discussion, when I saw that email, yet the first reaction is a chuckle. It's a groundhog. But I have helped with several community gardens on the north side, and groundhogs are absolutely a challenge for people who are trying to garden there. And I was thinking about this. We have spent a tremendous amount of time talking about deer eating people's plants.
I had that thought too.
Where are the deer? Where are the groundhogs? The deer are largely eating the landscaping of people in the wealthier, whiter neighborhoods. I think that we cannot ignore this groundhog issue because it is the same as the deer issue. But it also opens a philosophical question of, can we eliminate every pest to gardens? And what can we do? So I'm curious about potentially helping people with exclosures, helping people with fences.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I don't have that much direct experience with groundhogs specifically, but I think bare minimum we could come up. There we go. That's on the Michigan.gov website. Ooh, it's a little hard to see.
Yeah, this information's on the
Is
Michigan DNR.
fencing- Okay. Can climb nursery orchard. So if we have basically this, can we get it on KZoo's website?
We could definitely link to it, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think that would be a good sort of bare minimum first step. And then I'm trying to read so fencing is clearly there. Is there anything about raised garden beds because my other question is there a way we can financially support the creation of some barriers?
I was just going to note that the key thing there is that the fencing must be 12 inches underground because they do burrow. So just a fence on its own isn't enough. So just wanted to note that there.
Having been a longtime gardener, and I lose a certain percentage of everything I plant to groundhogs, I would say that there's no simple solution. You cannot control the breeding, but there could be a case for having a lending library of live traps that that neighbors could borrow. They catch a groundhog, they talk to animal control or figure out how to get rid of it. And, at least it helps a little bit. But like what she was saying, if you're going to build a fence, it's got to be down and it's got to be tall enough that they can't climb over it. I ended up having to make raised beds and then completely closing them in with rabbit wire, all four sides. So that's not something that everyone can do or afford to do, but that's kind of the life with a groundhog. There are some repellents that kind of work, but you get a good rain, that washes away too. So,
And if I could just, if we're thinking about making traps or something available, I have a feeling this would be cost prohibitive, so that's why I'm a little antsy about funding any of this. But if there is a way that, we could get, traps or something that would be available to the public. I was just thinking about the library has a lot of neat stuff that can be lent out, carpet cleaners, all kinds of different things, and that might be the avenue if that is something we want to recommend.
I'm going to jump in here. Trapping is fine, but according to this website and previous work, you can't relocate wildlife. So if you trap it, it cannot be relocated off of that property. I'm assuming we were talking
Thank
live
you.
traps.
Yeah, I was also going to ask, trapping them is fine, but then where are we going to put them? So sounds like that was kind of moot. I do have a note. Sharon is watching the live stream. She says the public comment phone number is not posted on the live stream. So we should add it or say it. I don't actually know the public.
It's on the ECC's website. We can start announcing at the beginning of the meetings.
Yeah, we'll make that change and see if we can get it on the live stream. But if we can't get it on the live stream, we'll at least post it on the agenda and make sure to announce it at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as far as the exclosures go, yeah, I don't think the city's going to want to fund one for everybody who asks for it. But as far as the community gardens go, we could have 1 or 2 model exclosures that are built so that people can come and see exactly what it takes, so they can estimate whether or not they want to do something like that or then seek some other help. But actually have some models out there that people can come and look at, because yeah, you can't just put up a fence, they go under it. They can go over it. I've seen them climb 6-foot tall chain link fences, but that's pretty determined woodchuck you got there. But maybe funding just some model projects to get out there so that people can understand what it takes, and then maybe find some other source of funding to help individuals out that can come and say, hey, this is what I need, exactly what I need, because I've looked at the project and this will work for me.
Also, I'm thinking of, kind of going off of, the library providing certain supplies for different things. Are there community partners out there that would be willing to connect with, like, the city, or, work with, like, the North Side, neighborhood association on kind of streamlining options for residents that want to create like something based off that model? Like, you can mark down, these are all the supplies you need, and here are resources you can use to actually get those supplies, maybe for a discount, or some type of project like that. Maybe that's some work for the committees, but yeah.
Just one other thought. There is a Master Gardener program, and that when people that take the program, there is also a commitment to community service. So we may be able to try to recruit some people that need a project that could do a demonstration project.
Do you know if there's an expense related to that?
Yes, but I don't know how much it is anymore.
What's it called?
Yeah, there's a Master Gardener program, and as Thomas said, you have to do like community service hours to maintain your certification. So I do know that exclosures work. One of the gardens that I did on the north side, we wanted it to be accessible for people who are elderly and had low mobility, so we made the garden beds 3 feet tall. And we still had a problem with the woodchuck that was crawling into them. We put fencing around it, and the woodchuck was getting between the fencing and the wood. So I went out just with a staple gun and stapled a row, and that stopped it. So the garden was fine after that. What I'm curious, Justin, you might know the answer to this. The city had a program to help people with gardening, that they supplied containers and materials to get people gardening. Does that program still exist, and is it even an option for fencing to be added to that program?
Yeah, just a little bit before my time, I'd have heard of, I think it's Kalamazoo Roots. It was funded through the FFE. I can check around the office and see if there's funding available, or where we're at with that one.
So I think that this would be a good thing to add to our Wildlife and Natural Resources Protection Committee. See if you can come up with some elegant and sensitive solution that protects the people's gardens without causing too much harm to, essentially innocent wildlife.
Real quick, Justin, if you do link that on the website somewhere, will you email that to me so we can respond to this person and let them know that we're working on it and this is what we have so far?
One more thing I would add, I haven't personally tested this myself, but I've heard other people have success with this with other critters, I suppose. I don't know about with groundhogs, but inoculating pine cones with cinnamon and other scents that they don't like. You just essentially boil them in oil and cinnamon, and they don't like the scent and they leave things alone. It could be a more cost-effective thing to try in the meantime, I suppose. But like I said, I haven't tried it myself.
And those deterrent products do help. As I think it was Thomas said, they help. They're not perfect. The gardens that my wife and I manage, we use the Critter Gone, which is basically cayenne pepper and garlic and onion. You put it out and the yard smells like you have a crawfish boil going. It's pretty interesting. But as you said, every time it rains, it needs to be reapplied. So it does help, but it's not a solution.
One more option that might be worth looking into, I'm looking at the Kalamazoo Garden Council's website here, and I don't know how much they work with pest control, but one of the photos on their main page is they received a Michigan Garden Club's first place for an award for civic beautification for their work on the north side welcome sign. So they are involved with the neighborhood over there, so that may be worth reaching out to see if they have any resources, or, they host, looks like monthly or maybe quarterly meetings where, they share information, tips, tricks, and bring in a speaker as well. So that may be a good source of information for residents in the neighborhood.
And for your community work, another resource that you could talk to is the Kalamazoo Conservation District. And they have some resources that might be useful there. All right, anything else on groundhogs? All right, so that takes us to Planning Commission.
There was no meeting this month.
Tree Committee. Tree Committee.
Yes, I'm working on a 2024 mini annual report. So what I'm trying to do is get an accurate count of how many trees the city has planted. I have the challenge is that a lot of the tree committee is on nights and doing snow removal right now. So I can tell you what I have so far. It just gives us a little bit of a picture. There, I guess it's 2023, the city applied for a USDA grant and received about $1 million, I believe. There were some delays in receiving funding, so they only got 125 trees planted in 2024, and those were all in Edison and in the east side neighborhoods. And the grant specifically said that they would plant in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. They had hoped to do 250, but the funding just came in waves, so they had to hold off. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just repeat the numbers and neighborhoods for me?
It was 125 trees, and I don't have a breakdown on, that was just East Side and Edison. And in 2025, I know this is jumping ahead, they hope to plant 375 rather than the 250 target they had originally set for 2025. So, and that also involves in that grant some tree removal because of dying, hazard falling on the neighbor's house, falling into power lines. And there were 50 trees slated for removal in 2024. And I want to find out how many of those actually got removed. They did 30 in-house plantings. Michigan, they planted 33, when they did the road improvement, and on West Maple, another 20. I don't think that's all of them, so like I said, I'm still trying to pull together the rest of the numbers and hopefully have an accurate year-end report the next time we meet on, how many trees have been planted.
Oh, one question on the numbers. So the 375, that's an additional 250 to the 100, or an additional 375?
Because they only got 125 in this year instead of the 250 they wanted, they're taking that 125 from 2024 and adding it to the 250 for 2025 for a total of 300.
Okay, gotcha.
The other work that the tree committee does that I'm not sure you're all aware of is to review removal of trees and right-of-ways. And so looking at all the projects for this year, there was 64 trees that were removed from the right-of-way for different projects. all of those are being replaced or at a 3-to-1 ratio. And so, either on the site or at another location if they couldn't accommodate it on the right-of-way. Yes?
I'm trying to make sense out of the numbers. So there were 125 trees planted, 64 trees removed.
According to the USDA grant, they had about 50 trees they'd identified for removal.
Okay.
But the 64 I'm talking about are all right-of-way requests that come through the tree committee, and these are usually by contractors who are modifying a road that, like the River's Edge development. They had some ones that were interfering with where the water would be connected and the underground electric. And so also the Kalamazoo Event Center, Bronson Boulevard, a number of, what would you say, small requests from like the Oakwood Bible Church to remove a tree here or there. So but that's the total that I have from our minutes of about 64 trees removed and then 192 being planted. Obviously, we know that in a carbon footprint, that doesn't always work out exactly as we would like, but, that's kind of the other side of the business for the tree committee, just so you understand.
And when you say a 3-to-1 ratio, so they take out one, they replace 3, where do they place them, just out of curiosity?
On the site, if possible, and just move it to a different part on the right-of-way. If it's not possible, in some cases, they get permission from owners on the other side of the street to plant some trees.
Thanks.
So that the impact is local and that the plantings are local as well. The other thing I would yes, go ahead.
So I think that's the number that is more useful for us, in my opinion. Not just the number of trees that the city is cutting down and the number of trees the city is planting, but also the number of trees that are on city property or in city right-of-way, because those are all the city's trees. I think that combined number, I think, is more useful.
Okay, right. And in the right-of-way, the city does own all the trees. And so that ties in with something that we're trying to get going in 2025 that probably Justin could speak to more accurately, which is the city wants to form a contract with Urban Ashes. Are you familiar with, for reuse of harvested trees, storm damaged trees. And I really support this. I think it's just going to take time. You have any input, Justin, you'd like to add?
No, it'll take time. Folks are on board, just trying to work out the process there. But that was the presentation that was given in May of last year. The folks from Ann Arbor. But yep, folks are optimistic. We just got to figure out logistics.
The last thing I would add, just this is looking forward into 2025. The Kalamazoo Nature Center is building a new exhibit in their main building, and it's all about forestry health and the impact on your lives. And they have 2 very enthusiastic young curators that want to see if there's a possible collaborative effort between the tree committee and planting trees and Arbor Day, which is coming up towards the end of April. So stay tuned for more information on that. I would like to see it a volunteer opportunity if we can do that.
That sounds like a good idea. I love the urban ashes thing. That's the kind of stuff that could come out of the committee work. If there's something that the ECC can do to help move that along, that's something we could consider. In line with the potential volunteer event for planting trees, I run the Kalamazoo Earth Day Committee, and so we have events, volunteer events, community events all throughout April. So if anybody is involved in things that are happening, that are volunteer-oriented events in April, if you let me know, I can help get those publicized and potentially get some volunteers involved.
And David, one of the good things is that Arbor Day and Earth Day come really close together. Yeah, like the 20th and the 25th or something like that. So it's close enough that people are just going to want to volunteer in general. We hope.
Excellent report. We have Parks and Rec next.
For Parks and Rec, I guess I'm not really on the committee. Last time I was trying to be on the committee, but found out that the meetings take place on Tuesday, which is a conflict with my schedule. So I have nothing to report from Parks and Rec, and it sounds like we have a vacancy there.
That's fine. Parks and Rec does some great work, so we'll find somebody who is willing to take that spot. I know Tressa has done a lot of work with parks in the past, not saying that you should do that, but we do have some connections on the board to Parks and Rec. Watershed Council, the Watershed Council did not have a meeting last month. So then I'm also Odor Task Force. As you saw the note I put in the document, Odor Task Force is supposed to meet quarterly, but has not had a meeting in at least 2 years. I like to keep it on here just to point out that they're not meeting. So that takes us to the waste working group.
Yeah, let me go over a couple of things, and I'll document this, but we meet monthly. So, and there's like a subcommittee of that actually looks at recycle and things like that. So let me just go over the things we went over. They did do an EPS recycling in December. They were able to fill a trailer with foam and also cardboard, and they had 4 totes of electronics. So if you remember that it was like right after Christmas, there weren't a lot of people, but there were adequate that are coming. As a matter of fact, the next event is January 25th. It's at the same location, which is at the Mayor's Park, 10 to 1. And that one will include not just, the foam, the electronics, paper shredding will be included this time. And also they'll continue to do the oral care products. So I would encourage people to start to take a look at their website because it lists those items. So I'm not sure how many come in for that, but that's just a call out for that. Some of the results now I'm going to switch to another part. In 2024, single stream recycling totaled.
Can I
Yes.
want a clarification? How big is a tote?
That I don't know offhand, but that's a good question, and I'll ask. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, I had, I guess, 2 questions. What is the website you're referring to? The group that, I guess, carries out this, or is it through the city? Because on the city's website, there's no number or contact info for like volunteering for helping, I guess, with the foam recycling. So
I know that's one of the things that's another thing that I will take back because I remember you had asked last time, Justin. I work with Chris Broadbent out of the city, and so he's a very good contact to get in touch with, very responsive to. But I will make a note of that to see if they can include that on the website as well.
Okay.
Because they're always looking for volunteers, like the Watershed Council is going to be participating in volunteer.
One way that you could get that information is the city's 311 phone number.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not going to get you directly there, but that will get you somebody who knows.
Anything else about the EPS?
What you mentioned a website shortly before that, like with the products that they accept through that. Is that the city site that you're referring to? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right.
EPS foam recycling.
Yep, yeah, the guidelines. I got it here. I was just
okay.
Yep, thank you.
But that's the one you were suggesting, Justin, would be helpful to have the contact number if you want to. Thank you. All right. Anything else about EPS recycling? Okay, in 2024, single-stream recycling totaled 2,153 tons, which was an increase of 5.94% over 2023. Now, that covers just single-family houses and multi-unit residences, so there doesn't count any of the others. Curbside brush collection, which occurs April through October, 164 tons were collected in 2024, and it was an increase of 1.84% over 2023. And then the leaf collection has been a little bit, and I'll walk you through the notes that I took. So last year, 13,652 cubic yards were collected, which was down from 2023 by over 5,000 cubic yards. So why? And so what we were told is there were snow events in early fall. So the people that normally take care of the trees, they have to switch in order to plow the snow. And then as it comes up into, say, Thanksgiving as well as towards Christmas, you have a lot of the similar workers that have to take, if you've worked in business, you have to use your PTO before it's gone. And there were also multiple snow events, which prevented them from doing that. So what they're doing is they will operate this through January to complete the second leaf collection. Yeah. But they've been doing it, and they're focused on doing it, so I give them kudos for that. And then I think I already mentioned the next recycling event. The last thing is that there are 5 events scheduled for 2025, so in addition to January, the next one is in April. So just so you know, so that's probably a good tie-in for the work that you're doing. Yes, sir.
This may not be news to most of you, but it was to me to see that the recycling trucks that are going around picking up curbside recycling are now using AI cameras to evaluate the loads as they're dumping them, and then hopefully that's going to provide feedback for individual addresses to address contamination.
Yeah, and we didn't talk too long about that, but it was something that I know the intent is not to go around slapping people's hand, but it's to give them more data so people can understand what is legitimate in order to put into those containers versus not. So I don't think, like I said, there will be, tapping on people, but there will be, I think, broader communication once that's completed.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Chris. Justin was there when we had the intent is to have the information to be able to inform people through like a mailer if their cart is contaminated and unable to be recycled. At least for the foreseeable future, there's no intention of it being an enforcement mechanism, but instead to be an education mechanism. So it is a little bit unnerving to think about, but it's probably a really smart decision and will help our recycle percentage.
I can understand why it's unnerving, but at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's meant to be educational. So we can, again, try to get more people involved doing this correctly for the benefit of the whole. So I'm really looking forward to that. And there are some other things that Chris's team is starting to look at, like they received a request for, well, can you recycle ballpoint pens? Well, one of the things that when we were talking about it, one of the suggestions that came up, which was actually, rather than respond immediately to one-off requests, let's start to get a scope of what people are thinking maybe should be included as part of recycling, so we can try to, maximize the potential of what we are putting into our recycle area. So more to come on that. They're just very early in doing that.
One thing just to add to that, another resource for people who are looking for information about when recycling events are, when pickups are, is the From the Curb newsletter that the city puts out, I believe quarterly. That does contain, I know not everybody looks at it, but it does contain a lot of information. It's worth
Yeah,
taking some time.
I would agree, David. I think that's a great little piece of paper, and they are sending things out constantly. Like, I don't know, have you seen the postcards with the eagle on it, where they tell you what can be put into those? So I'll just, if you get it, put it up on your refrigerator, because it's a great reminder and it's easy to use. But that's all that I have.
Okay, great report. There's a lot going on with waste, whether it's what we're doing with it or how we can reduce it. This is another thing. I would like the waste group to think about, is there a way that we can be proactive in terms of finding where the trash problem comes from so that we can better address it? An example that I'm thinking of is, I believe, I don't have any evidence of this, so it's a belief. I think a lot of the trash comes from uncovered containers, whether those are dumpsters or whether those are cans. There was a project in Palm Springs where they were looking at ravens, because ravens are taking over Palm Springs in a really terrible way. They're causing a lot of ecological destruction. And so what the wildlife biologists did was they determined that the ravens were being attracted by restaurants that weren't covering their dumpsters. So they spent 2 years just going around and regularly documenting the dumpsters, kind of like what we're talking about with the garbage trucks. Not to be enforcement oriented, but to be information collecting, so that they could then create data sources to see if there was a connection. I feel like we need that kind of data so that we can understand the trash issue better.
Just what trash are you talking about? Any specific trash?
Well, so an example, we have on Western's campus right now, there are 2 student groups that exist to pick up garbage. We have groups that are forming in the city regularly to pick up garbage. When we do trash cleanups in the spring for Earth Day, we'll do Edison, Vine, and the north side, and we get dumpsters full. I know that, yes, and I've had this conversation, this is why Doug McLaughlin from Watershed Council brought this issue up. Yes, a lot of it does come from the unhoused community, but the unhoused community doesn't have any place to put trash.
Right.
So, yes, it comes from them, but is it really their fault if they don't have any place to dispose of it?
So just to make it very clear, you're talking about litter?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So, yeah, I think that there's a real problem with that here, and it'd be good to get ahead of it.
When you guys do the litter pickups, do you keep track of what you find?
Years ago we did, but when you have the volume of trash that we're picking up, it becomes unworkable to spend all that time cataloging every single piece of trash when each person is picking up 6 contractor bags full of stuff.
Have you guys kept track of the volume?
Yeah.
And the volume by region?
We keep track of how much we collect at each pickup. So in a sense, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to speak on that also. One of the issues that comes with working with volunteers is sometimes collecting data isn't that accurate in those situations, so it can be difficult. Even if you are collecting the types of trash, not everyone who's volunteering may be educated to the same level as far as what they're picking up. So sometimes it can skew your data to the point where it's painting pictures that aren't actually accurate. So that's another issue with volunteer data collection sometimes.
Well, I know when I worked at Shed, we would do cleaning days. Shed Aquarium in Chicago. We would do cleaning days on the beach. And they had a whole setup to try to support volunteers and just what you're talking about. And you probably done this yourself, but they had the items or item categories that you're most likely to find, or that they, in their experience, were most likely to find. And then it was basically like a tally mark system. So I know that's one. I know this sounds awful, but sometimes they'll go through everything after it's been picked up to see what they find, which feels a little too cumbersome. But if we can figure out what we have and where it's coming from, we might be able to figure out how to slow that down. For finding a lot of McDonald's cups, for example, maybe we can talk to McDonald's and see if we can change something.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking about. If you go by any like large store complex, you'll find just trash all over around the parking lot. Yeah, and I think those things can be addressed if we have the data to know, and so we can pinpoint. Not saying that Myers is the problem, but let's say, for instance, we found Myers and say, okay, Myers, you got to do better, or else, And I think that helping places do better is possible.
Just kind of talking about your point before too, there are definitely some places where the homeless or unhoused population, whichever you prefer, congregate during the day because they can't stay in their shelters. How hard would it be to get trash receptacles that are picked up in those hot spots? This might be a question for Justin. I don't know. I think the issue is picked up, and I think that's the reason why the trash, there aren't as many receptacles as we need, is because there needs to be somebody who's paid to collect them, and that's an expense on the city's budget. So again, collecting this kind of data might be useful in making an argument that is an area of staffing that would be worthwhile for the city to add to.
Thank you for the input. I will definitely take this back to the committee. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Justin.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I mean, yeah, the chair is correct there. Yeah, it's staffing, coordinating pickup. If you put too large of a dumpster out, as I've been told by folks, Chris, it just becomes a spot for people to dump their couches and other larger items that they want to get rid of. So trying to find that balance between the need we're actually trying to fill and the dumpsters that people just seem to be unable not to fill with large items.
Yeah, these are all good ideas, worthwhile for consideration. Let's move to our last committee report, Native Species and Urban Landscape.
Yeah, so we are trying to coordinate a time to meet, actually, with Destiny, the Climate Corps member that works with Justin, and I think that is where we'll be able to kind of pin down, a recurring meeting time and agenda and just kind of see where we're at. So we're going to be talking about ways we could market the No Mo May differently, different messaging, different purpose, different goals, and just kind of talk about like what we've already heard from the community, and just kind of focus on that right now, and then come back and we'll probably brainstorm more ideas later. So yes, stay tuned.
All right, unfinished business. We have two applicants to the committee that we have interviewed, and there is a third applicant who we have not had the opportunity to meet yet. That third applicant is Mike Thompson. Is Mike? Okay, Mike, do you want to come up and just introduce yourself to the committee?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me all right? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, first and foremost, my name is Mike Thompson. I am General Manager of Republic Services for Southwest Michigan. So a lot of what you just talked about is extremely relevant to myself. After reviewing December notes in the meeting, I will look to consolidate and expedite some of your questions. I live around the corner. I live downtown Kalamazoo. here and my reasoning behind joining ECC and all of you is sustainability means the world to me. I was born and raised in the waste and recycling industry and have progressed through the ranks through the family business and now with Republic Services. In my free time, I am usually advocating, coaching, mentoring, training, and bringing light to the industry overall. So that's kind of a little bit about myself.
So he answered the basic question, and he does live in the city limits. Anybody else want to start? Oh, so one other kind of housekeeping question. Our meetings are the third Wednesday of each month at 4:30. Does that pose a problem for you for attending?
None whatsoever.
Okay. So anyone want to ask some questions?
I was going to say, you usually start with okay. Yeah, I guess in your experience, what's one of the main things you see and how you use your spot on the ECC to kind of steward those, or I guess, push those into light for more community members so they can be addressed on a larger scale?
Yeah, I think obviously outside of ECC, I definitely have a strong platform to contribute in just my knowledge and experience in the environmental services industry, whether that be local, state, federal regulation, but here specifically in Kalamazoo, I live downtown. I don't want to see, trash litter all over the streets. I go for walks, go for runs, want to live in a nice community that's well taken care of.
Thank you.
Okay, so you said you have a lot of things, I guess, that you talk about. What are the things that are most important to you? Like, what's your oh man, do you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, I have like pregnancy brain. I keep forgetting words. Yeah, what do you like to talk about most when it comes to your job or just sustainability in general?
Waste, recycling, diversion opportunities. To give you a little bit of background, I recently operated out in the state of California, specifically San Diego. So I led field operations out there. Some of the strongest regulations in the country at the state level. When you think about food waste and diversion, they have set the bar. I really enjoy driving that and leading that, and I think that's some knowledge that I'd love to bring here.
What's your goal, what's your work goal? If you could change anything about Republic, what would it be? Sorry, your job is just so relevant. I'm using it.
So could you frame that again?
Yeah, so like, we'll say if you were in charge of the Michigan-based Republic, what would you prioritize?
I think education, and as most of you know, that is extremely difficult, changing human behavior when we want to drive recycling initiatives across the state, and not just here in Michigan, but the country. That was one of the greatest hurdles in the state of California, and it will be here too. But Michigan and Eagle have done a phenomenal job when you think about materials management and what's in the pipeline. I think we're well on our way.
So the question there, Frankie, I always ask, and if you saw the notes, in your opinion, what is the most significant environmental issue facing Kalamazoo?
In my time here, I would say most likely PFAS, PFOA. When I think about the river cleanup and water contamination, that is on the forefront. It's in the news every day. That impacts all residents, community members, each of us. I would say that is up there right next to number one right now.
What is your opinion on the environmental impacts that will come with the arena development?
Good question. I think anytime new construction is happening, there needs to be a focus on how the development is handled. So from a construction standpoint, are you handling any waste that is non-recyclable properly, accordingly? Where is that material ending up? Because you can't reuse everything. So I think from start to finish, anytime there's new construction, and specifically the new stadium, it's how you handle the material.
Do we have other questions there?
Does Republic Services have any contracts with the city of Kalamazoo?
So
Currently?
Yes, you just brought up the contamination that is being tracked across the city and community right now. That is our vehicle that has the contamination tracker and camera on it, so we do service residents.
How long have your vehicles had the camera, the AI camera, to give feedback to residents?
This is very recent, and I mean, we're talking less than a year. This is brand new. This is a partnership outside of Republic, but we are the service provider, so it's attached to our vehicle.
Okay.
In that capacity, so it's conceivable then you could have some conflict of interest at some point in time. You comfortable identifying those and taking appropriate action to address one way or another what you'd have to do if you do have some conflict of interest?
Yes, absolutely. So aside from ECC, if I were to step into a position like that, I also serve on the National Board of the Waste and Recycling Association. So similar, there's no conflict of interest whatsoever.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
I have one more. Is Republic focusing on any food waste diversion campaigns currently or in the past or in the future? Do you see that happening specifically in Kalamazoo?
Specifically in Kalamazoo?
Yes.
Yeah. So as a leader in environmental services, if you look up Republic Services online, whether it's electrification, food waste diversion, we are always at the forefront. So we are observing currently state legislation, anything that's happening around food waste right now.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you. You can grab your seat.
Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so we have 3 open seats, and we have 3 candidates. All 3 candidates meet the minimum qualification to be a member of the committee. So I'm willing to entertain a motion to vote on candidates individually or to vote on candidates as a slate, if anyone wants to make either motion.
I think
I'd like to make a motion for a slate.
Yeah.
I'll second.
So following the rules, we now can discuss. Does anybody have any discussion on that motion?
I guess I didn't quite hear the answer. What was the answer for conflict of interest? Because that's my one concern with today's candidate.
He stated that he also serves on a national board in a similar capacity and has no conflict of interest, and that if there was one to arise, he'd handle it accordingly.
Okay.
Just one comment as well. Based on the most recent applicant and the 2 previous, they all seem like they'd bring a different perspective to the ECC, and I think it'd be really helpful to have the help of all 3 of them on the board or committee.
Yeah, I think the age range too is pretty appropriate. Just as new additions and new ways of seeing the opportunities to market like ECC and other work that we're doing. Yeah, there's a lot of leverage we can work with, I think.
a question for Justin about kind of the logistics or mechanics of this. We have one empty seat up here. If we add 3 people, where are people going to sit to participate in meetings?
Well, assuming that every one of you is going to show up to every meeting for their year, we'd find chairs. You might have to share microphones. Wouldn't be able to get new microphones, but I'm sure we could find the seating for folks. And I'll work on it.
All right. I'm just not sharing my chair.
You won the vote. You don't have to share.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, then I will ask for a vote. All in favor of approving all 3 candidates at this time, show of hands. It looks like it was unanimous. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, so we have 3 new members. Rita, I see you out there. Mike's out there. It looks like our John is not here today. But what I would like you all to do, you have homework already. We have currently 11 committees, and you heard us discussing kind of what the committees do. We are all discussing where we're going to be on the committees. That's going to be a big part of what we're going to do at our February meeting. So take some time to look over the committees, think about where you might want to plug in. We generally expect people to be on at least 1 committee. Sometimes people are on as many as 3. But think about what your time commitment allows, so you can jump in when we get started next month.
David, when are they officially members?
Once the city commission approves their membership. And the membership terms are a little unusual. They're all dated to January 1st. So it's not that unusual for our new candidates, our new members, but if you started in June, according to the city clerk's office, you started in January. So, yes, there'll be, assuming the city commission meets and gets this on the agenda and approves them, they will potentially be voting members in February.
Yes, and I do want to make sure that's clear, because correct me if I'm wrong. Please come next month, regardless of whether that vote has happened. You can be here and just not be voting members, but still participate fully in other ways. So, yeah, we'll see you in February.
All right. Any other comments or thoughts on that issue before we move to the next? Okay. Yes.
The commission will be meeting the 27th of this month, not the 20th, because of Martin Luther King Day. So there should be time to get these people this late to be able to vote on it, so they'll be ready by February.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. So it sounds like, barring something unforeseen, our new members will be voting members in February. So plan the 3rd, I don't know the date, but the 3rd Wednesday at 4:30. Okay, we have on here, I'm guessing that this is something Justin is going to speak to. We had an email about concerns with contamination at one of the stations. Justin, can you fill us in?
Yeah, so I'd emailed Director Baker from Public Services. He had already seen this email, and responses were sent out, but it's worth kind of noting here. So it's kind of difficult for me to parse out exactly. The concerns were in the email, but Director Baker's response was that station number 5, it's a water station there, is the oldest continuously operational station in the city. It's 110 years old. It was built in 1914. There is PFAS contamination located within 100 feet of the Station 5, but water withdrawals at Station 5 have been managed to limit any potential influence of PFAS. Limiting water withdrawals does not support system reliability. I think that was one of the questions or recommendations that the citizen put forward. Station number 14 needs work as it does not meet future 2029 EPA regulations, so we got to get ahead of the regulations as they roll out. Both stations require improvements to meet reliability standards. Several alternatives were evaluated by Public Services, and this was the least cost and highest benefit alternative. So stations 5 and 14 will be consolidated. There's also a video. This all took place in a public YouTube virtual hearing where Director Baker explained kind of the changes here, and I'm guessing that's where this question came from as the citizen watched this. I can't speak much more beyond that, but that's the response that I got.
And just curious, Justin, maybe you already mentioned this, was that response sent to the individual who sent the email?
I don't know that. I was just included on an email chain.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for those of you who don't, well, we all probably remember it. So I just asked that the city address it. I responded to the individual just to let him know that we asked the city to address it, and that was really all that was within our power to do. And I suggested that he, direct any follow-up to the city, who could answer his questions more, better. Okay. Oh yeah, and that's in the same vein. The groundhog email. We don't have the response because I was going to respond just to let that person know we got it and we were going to talk about it, but we don't have a way to respond. So
there was it's tricky. Looks like this was a phone into 311. Sometimes it's an email. There was a phone number there, but I'll think about that.
Okay, and we don't need to necessarily respond, but it sounds like Tressa's talking about some resources that we could marshal to give to this person.
I can give her a call and let her know about the link that you posted.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on that again, with the funding situation or requesting funding or anything of that nature, usually that stuff is driven by data, so I think it may be worth trying to, I guess, I don't know how, if it would be on the city or who, reaching out to residents there to see, how many people are in fact experiencing, because if it's a significant number, that goes a much longer way than if it's just a, relatively individual problem as far as securing funding or anything like that, so.
Yeah, and if something comes out of the working group that we can, as a committee, help to do something in terms of gain information or spread information, we'll be happy to follow up. Results of the ballot, I think that's pretty clear. Justin, vice chair, I'm chair. Those are the only office positions we have. So moving on. New business. Does anybody have anything they want to throw onto our radar for new business?
I guess one thing, you two were talking about the dates for Arbor Day and Earth Day, and then the EPS recycling. So Earth Day is the 22nd of April, Arbor Day is the 25th of April, and the EPS recycling day is the 26th. So I think it'd maybe be good over the next few meetings to try and develop some sort of push for, volunteering or something of that sort, because all those, there are people who volunteer regularly, but also, people who maybe just choose to do it once a year, and that may be a great week for, someone, if you're not available on Wednesday or whatever day the 22nd is, Friday or Saturday, the 25th and 26th may be more available. So I guess just making people aware of those volunteer opportunities might be something we could help out with.
That is a great idea. We'll maybe do something at the beginning of the meeting next month to make sure people have the information for that. Good idea. This is just something so a new business idea, because I think it could be something that we could do that would be meaningful, but potentially not require a huge amount of work. Justin, for a question for you. Do you know if the city allows green burials?
I do not. I don't know if that's a city issue or if it's larger than the city, but because I know there's a lot of pushes at state level I've seen But yeah, that's something we can talk about.
So I think it's something that we can talk about. It's, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's basically a burial that allows your body to naturally decompose rather than trying to preserve a cadaver under 6 feet of dirt for as long as possible for whatever reason that might be. So just something, I might try to pull some things together, shoot them around to the committee just so people can think about it. I think that might be something that, if it's within the city's authority to consider, might be worth putting some information in front of the city to look at. Yes?
I believe they have a green burial site at the Congregation of St. Joseph out on Gull and Nazareth. You might want to start checking there with the sisters and see what the, how people can sign up for that if they can, or if it's maybe just for them. I'm not really sure, but I actually want to go there.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me with the sisters. If there is one, that would be them who would be doing it. But so the city limits are a little bit wonky around there. Is that in the city or is that county? That is city? Okay. So yeah, I will see just if I can find some more information and get it around to everybody so we can think about it.
Yeah, I think it'd be really nice if there's not something on the book saying you can do it. Let's put something on the book saying you can do it before someone pushes against it.
Exactly. Do it before anybody knows what we're doing. All right. Any other potential new business that people would like us to think about in the new year?
I will bring this up after I've done a little more research, but street cats and outdoor cats, they can have a really big impact on wildlife. They hunt, they overpopulate, and I'm not sure what we have in terms of ordinances already, but it might be something worth looking into on how to deal with it. Or we, for example, have a neighbor who has an outdoor cat that is not fixed. So if we opt to do a catch, neuter, release program, do we care if it's a cat that belongs to somebody? Or is it your cat is outside, they're not spayed or neutered. Oh, they got collected, and that's just kind of what happens. So I think that's a good thing to look at this year.
Do you know what the recovery process from that is like for cats?
For cats to be spayed or neutered?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty straightforward procedure. My understanding is usually with catch, neuter, and release programs. Oh, thank you. What they do is they catch the cat, spay or neuter the cat, hold on to the cat until they are able to be released safely. So they're not going to put a doped up cat on the street.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So is this the current ordinance? And can we zoom in on it or read it? Oh, okay. This is just like the number of cats and how keeping cats and Justin, can you read that? It's so tiny for us.
It shall be unlawful for any person to possess, harbor, shelter, or keep adult cats in a greater number than can be cared for in any sanitary and proper manner, or in a manner that, because of the number of such cats create a nuisance as defined in paragraph 7.3 of this chapter, or in a manner that, because of the number of such cats constitute a threat or danger to the surrounding environment, including native wildlife and the property of surrounding property owners. An adult cat, for purposes of this section, shall be a cat over 6 months of age.
I will say, as far as the catching the cats who are people's outdoor cats, from my understanding, most TNR groups search for a microchip. Obviously, if it has a collar on, that might give them a clue that it's someone's cat. But I suppose if a cat wasn't microchipped and had no collar and was roaming around outside and was to be trapped in one of these circumstances, that I guess, yeah, I don't know how they would have any way of knowing that that was someone's cat, so I imagine they would go forward with it. But I think these days most people have if it's actually their cat, not like a free-range cat, most of them are microchipped of some sort or have a collar. So, but yeah, I do know from doing research on birds, they are, I think, the largest leader in decimating local bird populations by like millions, if not billions, of bird deaths or avian fatalities. So definitely an issue, especially over on Locust Street. There's a little colony of them, as cute as they may look. They grow up and terrorize the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is there is at least one house on Locust that actively feeds the outdoor cats. But I'm not sure if they actually belong to him or if he just feeds them. It's a weird gray area. And I think you're right. If they're captured and there's a chip or there's a collar, that's a little more clear. But, I would hate to catch someone's cat and then not have a decision in place on whether or not that oopsie is okay legally.
I refer folks, sorry, to jump in here. So this code's online. It's pretty searchable. So right here, so it talks about animals at large. So if your cat was an outdoor cat, it would probably be considered an animal at large. So yeah, I guess, yeah, just recommend as we go forward and try to come up with these things. Search these. That's how I find most of the stuff that I need to know.
I don't know if it's still in effect, but there is another board that's the Animal Services and Enforcement Advisory Board. Would that be more appropriate to refer that to them and allow that board, since it seems to be under their purview?
First, it'd be nice to know if it actually exists. But I wanted to go back for just a second, and you had referenced to when you were reading that, Justin, as found in, I think you said paragraph 7, they defined the nuisance in that. Is that the way that was? I was just curious how broad that nuisance is, because obviously one cat, from what we've just heard, creates a danger for the natural environment. So I'm just curious how broad that definition of nuisance is. And I don't mean to set us back on that. I just wanted to see if we could quickly.
Nuisance includes but is not limited to any animal which makes, creates habitually disturbing noises, foul or offensive odors, unsanitary conditions, or chases pedestrians, bicycles, or motor vehicles.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
That's a glorious definition. Yeah. Chases pedestrians.
Well, so I'm thinking, trying to tie what people were suggesting together. What might be a good strategy? Teresa, you raised this. If you wanted to put together some language that the ECC could approve and forward to the Animal Services Board that Stephen mentioned, we can, encourage them to take a more proactive stance about outdoor cats.
We can, I think, regardless, getting their input, like if there is an ordinance that needs to be put in place, getting their input could be very useful. Or
just finding a strategy to implement the existing ordinance.
Yes, agreed.
Steve, you were talking about it's the county board, right? Yeah, according to their website, their next meeting is February 11th.
And I just sent everybody a link to that particular site. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, great ideas. Any other new business that people would like us to consider? All right, seeing none, do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Doesn't. Oh, Rita, come on up. Here's the last chance to speak as a member of the public.
Hello, my name is Rita Chandler. I had a question, actually, I guess a statement. The neighborhood city of Kalamazoo, I was looking at the Imagine Kalamazoo plans, and the link does not work. I can send this in an email too, so you guys have the links. But I just wanted to let you guys know that the imaginekalamazoo.com/plans is not a link that is working on the city's website.
Thank you. Yeah, send us that link so we can make sure that it gets corrected. Thank you. Any other public comments from the audience? Okay, do we have any on the lines? We do not. Okay, then we'll take a minute for any commissioner comments, kind of just going around, starting, okay, pass.
No, I'm going to address it in a little bit here about the, all the things we've got on the wildlife. Do that off the record.
All right, no commissioner comments. Successful first meeting. It's not quite 6 o'clock, so that's a win. All right, folks, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're out of here. Thank you.
So let's get together sometime. Who else is sitting on that?
I want to say it was just us, but maybe Demarius too. Oh, Justin, really quickly.
Oh, sorry.
What day were the Parks and Rec meetings?
I think it's Tuesday at 5 p.m. I want to say, and ITA from.
Week, or is it?
Oh, I'm not certain. I think it was once a month, but yeah, ITA from 6 to 8:30 every Tuesday. So that was my issue.
Is there an email with the date?
I didn't even know. This was like a question that I think I reached out to Dave asking like how to join committees, who's on what committee.
Yeah.
And I said that I had interest in the park that day.
Yeah.
But then I, in the same meeting, said that once I learned, I think Sharon was maybe the one that told me what day it was, or I can't remember. So I never really got that even past, you know, the initial stages, but I would if I could, but.
Gotcha. All right. Yes. We
Hey,
should find
Steve.
what time to meet.
the waste committee you're referring to?
What works for you?
Well, right now, my wife is just going to be starting to go on, week off. And so I'm going to be gone those weeks that she's off.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly when those weeks are going to be just yet.
Okay.
But I really do want to get something going.
Yeah, me too.
So those are three really good things. I think the groundhogs are going to be the easiest thing to deal with, oddly, even though they're the most difficult, because there's almost no dealing with them. But there's a few things education-wise, and anyway, that's one thing. The deer thing I see as being like the huge time-consuming one that there's going to be people.
Well, that one's tough too, because I'm not sure that there really is that great of a solution that's going to make people.
Oh, everybody's going to be unhappy with that.
Yeah, some.
But something really does have to be done, in my opinion.
Yep,
The more
okay.
the more I'm asking around,
The more
the more I realize the seriousness of this. But so anyway, I just want to let you know that I do really want to get together, and I'm available morning, noon, and evening.
Okay.
So.
Evenings tend to work better for me. I work in Benton Harbor, so typically I get home around 5:30 or 6.
Okay.
Okay.
But we can.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like.
All right.
I think I should be able to.
weekends.
Yeah, if they're within.
So
I think I should be able to attend both of
so
those.
let me try to get that nailed down as to what weeks.
But yeah, I'd love to get involved with the.
We're going to be.
Okay, all right, yeah.
She's
Okay,
been really
awesome. I'd
cagey
just love
about
to get
this.
involved with the waste side.
It's real loose, and she's going to be able to pretty much drive it, and she's trying to figure out what her major concerns are. As soon as she's got that figured out, I think I'm going to be able to. And conversely, maybe what I should do is try to do it, and I don't know how much you want to stack stuff up, but I've got.
I don't think I've been here since you've been here, or you've
This
been
and
here.
Meals on Wheels.
That's true. The day I was interviewing,
the
I was
week
looking up there, I was like,
that
oh no.
this meeting
Is there
will
enough
be,
chairs for everyone?
maybe do something that week, because I've told her that I want to be here, although that's only one a month. So I'm sorry to create all this confusion on this.
No, you're fine.
Let me
you know what,
just start thinking about
Just,
it.
She's due on March 1st.
Okay.
So,
So you're gonna be out of the,
well, just if we create a meeting and then I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Actually, this isn't gonna work. I'm in the hospital right now.
well, and I guess for that matter too, what we could do, doesn't have to be a regularly scheduled thing.
Well, we could. I mean, I find that regular scheduled
It's
meetings
better.
are more, yeah, people are more likely to show up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been working on some, but
But
kind of just
also,
been
you
still
know,
scatterbrained with the semester starting,
I'm
but
sure I'll need a
I
break
found some
every now
great
and then.
papers.
so.
All right,
Some
well,
other serene models.
I just wanted to convey to you that I really
Yeah.
am interested in
Parameters.
I am too.
this whole campaign. I didn't even thought about that, but that's been a real
Like that.
Well, you know, it,
sore point with me.
I love PS.
see, that's the thing. It's we do too. But we've noticed, you know, we've lived on Lucas now for
With the accuracy.
coming on, I think, our second year, or like 2 years.
Darcy P.
And the cats just multiply. And if you don't manage it quickly, it just gets worse. And now we have a neighbor with an outdoor cat that,
A lot of the stuff that I read, they don't
well, doesn't really want to be an outdoor cat, but is definitely not fixed and keeps winding up in our yard, which is fine. We don't really mind it, but it did really make me start to think of like, wow, we really do have a lot of cats, and that could be a really big problem.
You know, when I walk around the neighborhoods in the city, I
kind
kind
of
of
move more toward the,
Right?
the immediate projections, just, you know, more for the future, meetings in the future and stuff like that, so. But yeah, I'll see where I land and, you know.